Hey, lighten up, jerk!
And so I was kind of, you recently went through kind of an issue where you kind of had to take a break from
From like
a
life.
lot, yeah, life, because you had kind of, would you categorize it as a mental breakdown?
Yeah, I mean that's what sparked it. Yeah, I mean it was like from like just unresolved like depression and like anxiety for a long time.
It was just too much stuff that kind of got piled up, and it just you couldn't.
I mean I just like never dealt with it like
Yeah.
in any way. So
Okay,
yeah, there's just a point where it just like just breaks down after a certain point.
right. But you kind of took that break, got the help you needed, and now you're kind of you've. Would you say you're kind of recovered from that, or you're on your way to recovering?
I don't know, man. Like, so, like one thing I'm realizing about like recovery, like, when you think about recovery, you're always thinking about like, oh, I started at some place, something bad happened, I went to like a lower place, and now I'm just trying to get back to where I was. Like getting back to where you were, like,
That didn't work where you were at.
right. So like even aiming to like get back to where I was, like, that's. I'm just realizing that's not the right way to like look at like recovering,
Right.
but just trying to
Actually,
like go
yeah,
somewhere new.
because like the idea of getting back to where you were, it sounds counterproductive, because just thinking about like just like kind of like the idea of like a journey or something.
Yeah.
It's like the purpose of a journey is not to wander aimlessly and then return back to where you started, but it's to progress and to advance.
Right, but like even those like things like where you measure like advancement, like I'm starting to like challenge those things because
Right. Yeah. No. Because
like-
because sometimes, you might end up like walking around in a circle, but that doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily a bad thing.
yeah, but one thing like I'm catching myself doing is like after I like took this break from work, I took like a demotion when I went back, and just like one of the like markers of like adulthood is like getting back to like the same salary you were at or same like
right.
position
Okay.
you were at.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, necessarily aiming to like get back and like that is a measure of like recovery. I think like I'm starting to like rethink that. But like it's a
Well,
natural tendency saying like,
right.
oh, I want to get back to where I was.
But I think the idea of, I think people should start shifting. I guess the construct of what when they think of like advancement or betterment, not to think of it as like a walking journey, but climbing a mountain.
Right.
Because like even if you like let's say like you fall or you kind of go down a level, then the aim is to the aim should be to get back up there.
Right, but using like different measures of like what like advancement is. Because like I mean like if I went back to like my original pay and original like job position, that'd be one like measure of like recovering. But
Okay.
like at the same time, like if I'm miserable, like that's obviously not a sign of like recovery. So I don't know. I'm trying to look at like how I'm functioning like day to day as like a marker of like recovery.
Yeah, but that within that mountain climbing analogy is like you could then choose to go down a level, and then it'd be still your decision, but it'll still be advancement because maybe like you're going up a certain way to climb a mountain, but it's it's just not possible for you, and so you have to like kind of go back a little bit and then find another way to go back.
Yeah,
to
it's
get
like
up.
different mountains that I'm
Yeah.
trying to climb. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just
not the same one.
exactly.
So, so why don't you share a little bit of like how you realize, like how you got to the point where like you realized that you needed that help, and then like the steps you chose to, like what you did to when you started to get help.
Okay. Like just to clear everything up, like this wasn't like a totally voluntary thing where one day I was like, oh yeah, it might be a good idea for me to like get professional help.
So
It happened-
there was a kind of a like inciting or triggering incident.
Oh no, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
So it wasn't just like you like feeling all this and then you kind of like having the wherewithal to be like, okay, I need to get out of here.
oh yeah,
Or more
no,
just like
it wasn't that.
you're like you went Vesuvius a bit.
Yeah, I like the way it happened was like I was probably dealing with like depression and anxiety for a stretch of like 6 months or so, and I mean, I was probably dealing with like just unresolved issues like longer than that period, but for about the 6 months before like things really got bad, like I started noticing I wasn't functioning well. Like people around me started noticing I wasn't functioning well, and I wasn't like able to like recover, because like if you have a bad week at work, you take the weekend to either rest or like relax. Come back Monday, you feel a little bit recharged at least, and then you kind of go on through the process. For about 6 months, like before the lead up to like when I really broke down, I really wasn't recovering like week to week. And yeah, it was becoming like obvious to me that something was wrong. Other people were starting to like get concerned and like worried. But I don't know, I kind of just like kept pressing through.
What were some of the signs?
I mean, just sleep problems and like general irritability. That's like one of the
Okay.
big, like persistent irritability.
Okay.
Um,
Were there like any like visual like you bags on the eyes or like you kind of
I mean, bags under the eyes probably as a result of like not sleeping
or like
well.
kind of like a disheveled kind of appearance?
Not too much.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, like when people were noticing, it wasn't because like I wasn't taking care of myself like physically.
Right. It was more
It was
about
more
your.
like, no, they saw like my mood dipping. Like generally, I'd like to punch in like humor even if it's like really bad.
That's true.
Like
No.
kind of like corny or
Yeah, like
corny kind of jokes.
just generally kind of corny, but just
Dry wit.
people or I wouldn't do that anymore. People start noticing.
All right. Okay.
When
Yeah. So it's
people are,
mood,
like-
personality kind of.
Oh
thing.
yeah, when people were trying to like brighten up the mood, like just wasn't responding to it. Sometimes like becoming like not like hostile to it, but just like not having it in any way.
Right.
And it was like 6 months of that where it was progressively getting worse. And on top of that, like I don't know, I kept trying to like work through it. I felt like if I like do this next project, whatever, there would be some sort of rest, or like I get over this next challenge. There'll be some sort of like rest. It was this like weird thing of like trying to work through it and hoping that once I overcome some challenge, like all these problems go away. And yeah, that's not the healthiest way to deal with things. But yeah, the triggering event that happened was like I took on a pretty big project at work. It was a new client, a new potential client, and I think we had like a week to do this thing. Yeah, I mean, I already wasn't.
Well, if I could ask,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
or like just like how much time would you usually have for something like that?
I don't know, like a lot of the work that we do, it's pretty like short turnaround times,
Okay.
like within the scale of like days to weeks. But this one was a potentially new client.
Okay.
And I put a lot of pressure on myself. And that was just another challenge where I was like, if I could overcome this, for whatever reason, I should get better, or like I should be able to relax more after this project. But I don't know, it was a really stressful project, like, and I kind of probably took more responsibility on that than I should have. And yeah, I like screwed up on the project. Like, I mean, I worked super hard on it, and then the timeline was like, I think we had until like Thursday or something to finish this project. Like I was working from like Monday through Thursday on this thing, and then like I thought I was completely done. We submitted it to the client, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm finally done. The next morning, I get a call from like my boss saying like, oh, the thing that you submitted, like, yeah, there's a bunch of errors on it. Like the clients aren't happy. You got to come in and like deal with this. And yeah, like I guess mentally I set myself up like once I finish this project, I can like maybe talk to the boss about like restructuring things, or like I can relax a little bit because like I put in all this hard work, and they could give
Or
me
asking
like
for
a
time
little,
off.
yeah, something like that. But yeah, it was just the opposite reaction that I was looking for, and I don't know, like, yeah, I was just hit with like just terror, I guess. And then like I actually like drove into work, and I was sitting in my car in the parking lot, and I literally like couldn't get out of my car for like 2 hours.
Wow.
Just because like I just didn't know how to deal with like what was going on. And yeah, like people were like calling me, like texting me and stuff. And then after 2 hours, like I just drove off. and that wasn't like a good move.
Mhm.
And yeah, it just like got worse and worse from there because like the clients are obviously unhappy and like work's dealing with that. But then they also have like the guy that was managing the project like going AWOL.
Mhm.
And as they're trying to like smooth things over with the client, some people are like trying to look for me because like I said I was going to come in, and I'm obviously not there,
Right.
and I'm obviously not responding.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it got like kind of out of control where like I think they ended up calling my emergency contacts.
Mhm.
That became like a whole ordeal. Like different people like that I used to work with started calling me, and yeah, I just explained that I just couldn't come in, and yeah, I really wasn't functioning well at that point. I think I ended up. So timeline wise, like I get the call that I messed up on the project at around 9 or 10 a.m.
Mhm.
I left the parking lot at work at about 11 or so,
Mhm.
and then it wasn't until like 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. to where I can like, I don't know, finally like at least like answer like some call
Right.
and get back to people.
Mhm. You're calm enough to where.
I wouldn't even say calm enough. It was more like enough like pressure from the phone like got me to like
Oh, okay.
say like, oh, I gotta like deal with like.
Oh,
at
so it
least
wasn't
one
as that
thing.
you like. It wasn't as though like you kind of came down from the ledge. It's more like you just. It was. You felt enough,
Like I don't know,
and like another kind of burden to like feel like, all right, finally,
Yeah.
okay.
And then I called. I think it was a point when like my emergency contact was my mom.
Mm.
She called me, and I was like, "Oh man, it's getting like crazy." So I,
Oh man, my mom's calling me.
yeah, I mean, I called her. She's like obviously freaked out because she gets like a call from work saying like, like, do you know where your
You know
like,
where
son
your
is? And then I called her back. I called one or two people back from work,
Mhm.
and then the original plan was to just, I think it was Thursday. The original plan was to, I don't know, just decompress like through the weekend, come in on Monday.
Mhm.
Monday came and went, extended it to like another week to like let me come in the next Monday.
Mhm.
And during this whole time, like I just wasn't functioning well. Like just, yeah, when like, I don't know, you get like bad news and like you feel like that like adrenaline rush or like fear for like a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
lasted for like 8 days. Like it was crazy.
Wow.
Where like
Yeesh.
I literally like couldn't like, yeah, I mean I wasn't functioning like after that whole fiasco on Thursday. I can't remember how much I slept, but I think I slept for about a day and a half, maybe a full day.
Wow.
And then I think I didn't leave my apartment for like another 3 or 4 days. And timeline wise, I think it was probably another week or so until I saw someone like in person that I knew,
Mm.
like a non-stranger.
Mm.
Yeah, like I just completely was not functioning well. And yeah, like that's the general like point where I was like, okay, things are obviously bad. I was terrified that, okay, so I was hoping that like after 3 days, like I would, get my courage back or whatever, get my wits back, and then I could just deal with whatever situation. But it didn't happen after like 3 days. Then it didn't happen after like another week after that, and I was
Wow.
literally afraid that it was gonna last forever.
Wow. So that'd be 10 days.
Yeah, 10 days of this like weird, like feeling crazy guilty about what's going on.
Mhm.
Like everything feels like it's falling apart. Like I let people down. People are worried. I can't deal with things.
Mhm.
I want to go back and try to fix things, but I literally feel like I can't. And I literally thought that was gonna last forever. And that's when I started like making like calls and taking steps
Mhm.
to like see if like I could get some help for this.